a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
In my situation with ACEs, I realized that the domestic violence that we are desperately trying to reduce from happening all traces back to stored energy that these partners have left home with from childhood, patterns that they have learned, and now they found a wife or a husband or children to take that out on. The number of people who are willing to talk about this after they've had that revelation, to me, is mind-blowing, because it tells you that people are willing to come forward if they feel a sense of relief and light, because they realize, oh, I'm responding that way because of a program that was installed in me, whether intentionally or unintentionally in childhood. Like, you are working just as you should. So pushing people from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth starts by first asking not what's wrong with you, but what programmed you, or what happened to you, right?
Yeah. I want to invite you into the Business Network, my free school community for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to grow their network and scale their business. Inside, you'll get step-by-step lessons, monthly workshops, feedback, scripts, resources, bonuses, and a community of like-minded people who believe in helping each other win. Join us today at school.com, the Business Network, or click the link in the description and click Join Group. I'll see you inside.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. And do you like people with passion, with energy, with drive? Well, guess what? You're going to hear a lot, 20, 25 minutes of that and more. Somebody that's got passion to help children in this world, not just the United States, but the world. And I support that 1,000,000%. Before we bring her on, here's our gratitude for today. And boy, does it fit our guest. You're not alone in this journey. Always be here cheering. I'll always be here cheering you on. And you know what? I've already cheered her on with some referrals and helping her out. I'm going to keep cheering and support her and her nonprofit. But let's get into it. Cendie, welcome to the show.
Hello, all the way from Orlando, Florida, Claremont, Florida. But yeah, hello.
Claremont, Florida. Here we go.
Yeah.
So, Cendie, you going through your background, you've made a lot of impact. What's one impact to this date that's really moved you?
The one that excites me to wake up to every morning goes by the name of Carmita. Carmita is a 60-plus-year-old grandmother who happened to be up one Sunday morning about 4 years ago, listening to a morning radio show. And I happened to be a guest on that morning radio show. And I was a guest on that radio show educating the audience of the listeners of that radio show, Monica Mays, just in case anybody's listening here from Orlando. And it was mental health awareness. And I got on the show to talk about how I had learned about a research study called the ACEs study, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So I'm on this radio show with this radio host talking about adverse childhood experiences. We get into the conversation of wanting to do something more tangible about domestic violence, which is violence in the home that kids see because parents are not getting along. It can be emotional or physical. And so as we're having this conversation about solving that problem and how domestic violence is an adverse childhood experience, Carmita was listening miles away, and she happens to be a grandmother of two young girls who she had to take in unexpectedly. One was age 10, the other one was a child in a wheelchair who had been handicapped pretty much all her life. He was around 16 at the time. She had to take those granddaughters in because her own biological daughter life was taken in a domestic violence incident. And Carmita heard this conversation on ACEs on the radio station, and she immediately reached out to me. And within 2 weeks, I showed up at an event for Miss Carmita, who was doing an event in honor of her daughter's lost life so that she could educate other mothers, which would have been about 40 women from Central Florida in this room, who Carmita decided what activated in her the day that she heard me on the radio station, it was too good to keep for herself. So she invited me to speak to 40 of her friends about the importance of talking to our daughters about healthy relationships, especially if we know that our daughters are getting in relationships because of what they might have seen growing up in childhood, emotional or physical violence. And so that conversation has now impacted multiple generations, and it's not the type of data you would see in an impact report. Carmita now gets to not only have therapy for herself as a first-time baby boomer who said therapy wasn't for me. She also gets to take her daughters through therapy, her granddaughter, her granddaughters through therapy, because she understands that by ignoring that tragedy and hoping that time will heal that wound of losing their mother, she's now impacting not only those children who are, born several generations after her. If the granddaughter decides to have children, now that granddaughter gets to have that wisdom when she decides to procreate. So those are generational changes that happen after a 30-minute radio conversation.
With a total stranger.
With a total stranger.
Somebody you'd never met before, power radio. That's the servant's heart, from the invisible servant's heart, that comes up from the ashes and says, okay, I need help, and you were there to help them.
Carmita. That's my success story. And there's more than that, but that's a multi-generational success story in the making.
Yes. So talk about ACEs, because I did some research. A lot of people out there don't know what it is. Explain to us what ACEs and your nonprofit's all about.
First, I want to tell people how long it's been around, because talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, this is a conversation all 8 billion people in the world deserve to hear about. And so you and I are probably seasoned enough to remember when Mike Tyson and Holyfield had that fight in Vegas. Does that ring the bell? So around the late 1990s, just to make that stick, there was a research study being quietly published by the CDC and another medical group that basically took a battery of questions and 17,000 willing people from the beautiful state of California who were middle class, living pretty nice, had some health insurance, and they asked them several questions about their childhood experiences. And those questions lended themselves to the 1997-98 study that was quietly published, placed on a shelf for the medical community, that basically said there are some adverse childhood experience categories, like domestic violence, like coming home to a parent that has substance misuse problems, maybe coming home to a parent that has mental illness problems, maybe coming home to a parent that's been deported, died, maybe arrested or sent to jail, or maybe you are a kid that had to go through a parent separating or divorce, or maybe somebody just abandoned you. All of those categories turned out to be what was causing most of the nonprofits to be founded in the first place. Homelessness, poverty, drug abuse. Like, if you think about any nonprofit that currently exists to address a public health issue, they're not necessarily just addressing a public health issue. They are addressing adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. So in the late 1990s, when this study was published, the medical community was like, oh, we don't ask those questions because we grew up being told we don't talk about what happens in the house. time will heal that wound. And it turns out, because of the CDC doing this study, time actually does not heal the wound. But what it does is, when you have 4 or more of those categories of ACEs, and the CDC published 10 of them to be exact, you have 4 or more of them, you're now increasing your chances of all kinds of diseases, especially the ones that are leading causes of death: heart disease, obesity, cancer, you name it. They were tied to how the child was raised in the environment. When you have 6 or more, and I'll close with this one because it's not like a sad thing. The good thing is that there's something that can be done about it. But when you have 6 or more, and this one was the most startling to me because it answered one question for me that I had been living with for 30 years. Why was my brother unalived or murdered when he was only 20 years old? And why did a 19-year-old take his life? I pondered with that question for 30 years. For 30 years, I didn't have an answer to why my oldest brother died the day before my 16th birthday. That was not anything sweet about a sweet 16th birthday gift. When I learned about the ACEs study, I found out why. This is not a blanket statement, but it's a piece of the data that says children who leave home with 6 or more categories of ACEs have an increased risk of violent crimes, and most importantly, have an increased risk of their lifespan being reduced by 20 years in comparison to somebody who had no ACEs. So the correlation between what happens on the inside of the body to the reactions that we get to see on the breaking news on the outside of the body correlate back to adverse childhood experiences. Now, when they wrote this study, they talked about that having 6 or more will lead to, lots of side effects in the immune system and in the body's, the way the body is supposed to naturally run and not always on high stress. What they didn't talk about, but it was subtly implied, is that when you leave home with that kind of trauma on your mind, the chances of you having an overreactive stress response system that could lead to doing something violent drastically increase. So I got the answer from doing the study myself, taking the quiz myself. I learned what my own score was. I had a perfect score, and I don't think any kid should ever score perfectly on this. The goal is to decrease the amount of exposures to that, because what I learned in that moment about my brother's at 20 years old is that my brother had double-digit adverse childhood experiences. Double-digit adverse childhood experiences. And so did the shooter. So it opened up a can of worms.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
So, man, you got my head spinning. So people listening are going, okay, first, we'll get the information where you can get these questions. At the end, we'll get her contact info. So stay with us, because I think you're going to learn more. What are some of the things your nonprofit will do? And somebody goes, I've got this double-digit situation. What can they do when they come to your nonprofit to help them, support them?
That's a great question. And that is the question that once we really answer it, and there's a very simplified formula, which I believe I'm halfway there. People always want to know, well, what do I do about it? I've got 5 of them. I've got 6 of them. I've got 15 of them. What do I do about it? And my natural response for people who have at least gotten to this part of the Rubicon, it's keep going. You've already started with awareness. Now talk to your therapist, talk to your doctor, join a support group. If you'd like to learn, buy a book. If ACEs didn't necessarily impact you in that way, but maybe you married into ACEs, let's say you had a perfect childhood, but the person that you're partnered with may not, this is a conversation for the couples therapy, right? Or the church clergy council, however you're getting that support. But I will say, if I could wrap this in a bow, I did personally take the liberty of creating a 10-step framework of like, what do you do once you've learned about ACEs? And so I created this 10-step framework that's called the Antidotes to ACEs. And the very first pillar in the Antidote to ACEs is starting with awareness. And that's what my nonprofit does, is we get into the community, we bring awareness to the community, And within those events, what we do here locally is we make sure that there are wraparound direct service providers in those events with us, so that when people do get activated and say, hey, I want to do something about it, over there to your left, make a right at the corner near the bathroom, and there's going to be a therapy group set up right there to help you with, let's say that's the direction you want to go. So that 10-step framework is essentially what all the research has concluded that needs to happen if you happen to be exposed to any of these adversities. Now, Steve, I'm gonna put an asterisk here and say it's not in a bottle. Asterisk. It's not in a bottle, right? So when I say I want to become $1 billion nonprofit that got here by not causing anybody harm, it's not in a bottle. And I do recognize that sometimes people have to and need that in order to find safety in their nervous system. But with the type of trauma that we are trying to address, correct, and heal from, we're talking about centuries worth of trauma that we are recovering from, right? And things that we need to do in order to take our mind back. That's what makes this the toughest part about healing from your childhood trauma. It is a job for taking back control of your identity and doing that through mind work. Now, here are 10 steps, but if you need something that resembles a pill in a bottle, then I need you to show up to events, because if you're in an event with other people who are working on themselves and that are equally yoked, chances are you are the connector and you're connecting with people and you're not thinking about the traumas that you're trying to overcome, or you're not involved in some of those unhelpful solutions to our antidotes, or unhelpful solutions to our trauma.
I got to write some notes here because it's amazing. I'm thinking of, when you talk, I'm sure the audience is doing the same. I'm thinking of my aces, and they're popping up right now. And like addiction and anything, you're never cured. And if you're self-aware, and I love the awareness part of it, once you're aware, then you can take action. You're just managing the healing, and you're healing, be able to live a quality life. I love what you're doing there, because too many people are coming up, let me just heal you. I'll take it all away. Yeah. Life doesn't work that way.
Oh, snake
and you're
oil
not doing
here.
it. No, I definitely know steak oil. You have a phrase. Yeah. No, I don't feel that with you at all. Because this takes time. But you know the beauty of it? The time is you're growing every day. You're getting better every day. Right? And that's what you're doing. Post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic syndrome, we heard that. A phrase I've not heard. Talk about that.
Yeah, post-traumatic growth is the opposite of post-traumatic syndrome. The syndrome is something that happened is a result of something that happened in your past that your brain is just not allowing you to relax and do something with. I also want to asterisk and say, people, I did not start off as a counselor, therapist, a psychologist, or any of that. All of this wisdom is as a result of the last 6 years of me getting to know thyself, right? Like, in my mind, we should be teaching children more about the body systems and nervous systems in that K-12 public curriculum than anything else. But it took me having to understand, why was my body responding the way that it was responding to traffic jams, to my teenage daughter, to my mother, to my father, to my brother, to my sister, to myself, to my boss, to my coworkers, right? And it wasn't that it was so overt, if you will, because we know how to put a mask on when our check is tied to the end and the outcome. We will do what we need to do in front of our coworkers in order to make sure we keep our job. But in that situation, when we're holding in those experiences from childhood that we're not aware are causing us to react like that to people at work, at play, whatever, if we hold that in, then unfortunately, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred. That means by the time we leave work or whatever that environment is, we've got to move that somewhere. And who do we move it to? Our spouses, our children, or maybe we take it to a substance that helps us forget about it. But then we got to start all over tomorrow and do it all over again. And then where are we going to come back to? Now, again, not in judgment, because that is a solution for your body to get it off. And in my situation with ACEs, I realized that the domestic violence that we are desperately trying to reduce from happening all traces back to stored energy that these partners have left home with from childhood, patterns that they have learned, and now they found a wife or a husband or children to take that out on. The number of people who are willing to talk about this after they've had that revelation, to me, is mind-blowing, because it tells you that people are willing to come forward if they feel a sense of relief and light, because they realize, oh, I'm responding that way because of a program that was installed in me, whether intentionally or unintentionally in childhood. Like, you are working just as you should. So pushing people from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth starts by first asking not what's wrong with you, but what programmed you, or what happened to you, right?
Yeah.
So that is the idea of post-traumatic growth, because like addiction, it's not that you haven't had that chemical in you before, because it's there, right? You put it in you, it's there, it's going to always be there. Same thing with trauma. You just learn how to, in so many ways, deliver yourself from the path of least resistance.
Yep.
The alcohol, the substance use, that's the path of least resistance. Not reacting physically or emotionally when I'm activated or triggered by something somebody has said. That's taking the road less traveled. The path of least resistance is just doing what you would have done at 7 years old when you didn't get what you wanted.
Yeah.
So again, just let me finish this by saying, because there are going to be people who listen to this that say, well, none of those are really my experience. Fine, right? 6 in 10 people that you meet will have experienced at least one category of that trauma. And if they have not gotten support for that trauma, you can rest assured that their reaction from whenever that trauma happened in their childhood will mirror their reaction in adulthood if they haven't become aware of it. Okay. And then when you think about the 1 in every 6 people that we meet, oh my goodness, the magic number is 4. 1 in 6 people left home with 4 or more of those categories. So imagine how your partner or your boss or your coworker may respond in situations if they never got help for those types of adversities. So not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And it's also sometimes what didn't happen to you.
Yeah.
Maybe even you know?
Yeah.
So we have a lot to think about as humans in terms of expanding the lens in which we see behavior, because all of that we see on a lot of the popular media outlets is designed to keep us in that fear system and in that active system, unfortunately.
Preach, sister. Preach. Oh my God, preach. It's the noise.
If we can't beat them, let's join them. So, I do feel like having people come together in events, connecting people, we find great ways to, solve problems for ourselves. And I think, first we switch the people's environment. We get them in these rooms where they're equally yoked. We edify the work that other people are doing and the work that people have done to grow from their childhood trauma. And we connect them with each other. And we move from sweeping things under the rug to openly discussing these things in safe ways so that more children get to grow up in homes and communities that are safe. How do we do that? You do that by getting to the adults that are responsible for taking care of children.
Where it all started. Community is so big with everything, it's even bigger here. Because I could see that community of people with ACEs going, yeah, I had this. Man, you had this. Yeah, would you? And then next thing you know, we're healing, helping each other, supporting each other. It sounds like, and we're coming to the end here, that if people follow ACEs, crime is everywhere. I just heard about a shooting in my area. School shootings are everywhere. Crime has just increased tremendously. We could do a lot with this with your nonprofit, couldn't we?
We could do a lot. And right now, we took a planning year in 2026 to really focus on how to do this more strategically and at scale. So getting people to volunteer their time to help us operationalize some of the things that we want to do at scale. But if nothing else, our current focus right now is on Laughter for Social Change. That is our current initiative, and having name name brand comedians and local comedians come together for a cause is something that we have found to be successful. So we want to find more support to continue to do that. And then making sure, as our business of connecting people, we make sure that people are connected to resources should they desire to take action on their personal experiences or experiences from somebody they may be in relationship with. So that's really important for us. So Laughter for Social Change is what people will see if they come visit. And we're looking for more support to continue to bring these programs to different communities across the country.
Beautiful. We'll get your contact info, audience. You'll be able to get that and get connected. Let's end with a fun question. So I'm coming out to Orlando.
Okay.
We're going to have dinner together. I want you to pick your favorite restaurant. And two things I want you to do. One, you're going to invite 3 people, whether dead or alive, who've made the most impact in your life. And number 2, I'm a foodie. I love what people love for food. I want you to order the food for the table. What would that be?
Okay, we're going to first go to Eddie V's, which is American steak, delicatessen, very nice upscale restaurant. And the 3 people that I'm going to invite besides you, it's going to be my daughter. She's going to be at the table with us. I would also like to have, I'm going to invite God to the table because there's something that says nobody has ever seen God's face. So I'm going to say, show your face, God, at the table. God's going to sit at the table with us. And then the third person I'm going to invite is going to be,
First one that pops in your head.
Buddha.
Ooh.
No, I want Buddha and God to have a discussion. It's going to be my daughter. It's going to be me, you, my daughter, God, and Buddha.
What a table.
At Eddie V's, and then we're going to have them give us, around the world appetizers, kind of like we would get at a Brazilian steakhouse. So it doesn't have to be all meat, but just give us around the world, like let us, have a taste of the world and just a nice spread.
Beautiful day. That would be an incredible night.
That would be a
God bless you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, it would be, Cendie. Thank you so much for taking the time and 6 years ago launching this, because you're making inroads. You're going to make many more inroads. More Grandma Carmita's going to be around coming to you. Let's make that the goal. I know people listening want to learn more about ACEs and you. How can they connect?
acesmatter.org. One way is to buy my recent book, A Crucible of Childhood Adversity. It's on the homepage. Any support there. I can't get it on Amazon right now, but that's one way to support, because we use the proceeds from the book sales to help us continue offering events. So acesmatter.org. And you can also take your survey. It's going to be the 15-question survey, but it gives you an opportunity to see what you can do next in terms of an intellectual journey on healing from the inside out.
Okay, Cendie, you've inspired me. An audience, if you lasted this long, I know a lot of people cut podcasts, understandable, 10, 15 minutes. But if you listen this long and it's made a difference in you, I'm going to give you guys a gift. Don't know many podcast hosts are doing that, but if you reach out to Cendie, you've got to reach out to her and mention this podcast. I'm sending you her book for free. She'll get a free book to share. That first give. The first 10 people, so only 10 people. After that, you're going to have to buy the book. But get this book. And, people like you said earlier, I don't really have any aces. Give it to somebody that does. Change their life. Because that's what books, podcasts can do. They're gifts of impact to help change them and even the world. So with that being said, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Doing Business with Servant's Heart. Let's impact more people. Cendie, thanks again for the time and being wonderful. And Cendie, now I want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.